Welcome back to another episode of Melo Menesco. We have another amazing guest, Genesis from Genuinely Genesis, where she is a content creator who shows us how to heal our financial trauma and how to build wealth by sharing her own experiences and her own story. So, Genesis, welcome. I'm so
Thank you
thankful
so
for being here.
much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for having me.
No problem. I'm really honored to have you here. So, let's start with your story. Like, how did you come into like the content creation, and specifically like in the finance niche, and then the other stuff, the other you could say side hustles or businesses that you have as well.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this actually yesterday on how I even started content creation. And, because I see a lot of people on social media and they're asking questions like, how do I monetize or how do I find my
Mm,
niche and all of this stuff. But
yeah.
for me, early on, I found that I was deeply passionate about helping increase representation in the workplace, in the world, just absolutely
Yeah.
everywhere. And I think that early on, I was like, wow, this is a topic that I'm constantly bringing up to the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I found that early on that I was just so passionate about helping increase representation. And I tried blogs, I tried Instagram and posting pictures and quotes or whatever it was. And
Mm,
I eventually found that through TikTok, through video, was
mm,
the way that I was going to reach my audience.
mm,
And so that's how I really started. I never thought it would become something that, yeah, I actually have monetized and that I have the ability to work with brands and really connect with people. I didn't really think of it as a side hustle ever, which is kind of funny because I'm all about side hustles. I was really just doing it because it was something that I loved and was passionate about. But why not make something that you're also passionate about, make it
yeah.
into a side hustle? So it has really worked out in my favor.
And I feel like that's how people become just like it could be like an exponential growth because you started because you were passionate about this topic, not because you had the idea of like, oh, how am I gonna make money? So
Exactly.
that's like something that people, especially now with social media where everybody wants to get started, it's like you want to make money because of social media, not because you want to build a community and share your experiences and your knowledge. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, and I get it. Like, I get why people want to make money with it because there's so many like social media gurus saying you can make so much money, like it's so
Yeah,
easy, blah, blah, blah. But dude, at the end of the day, it's actually very challenging. Social
it
media
is.
is, right? If you think about when you spend hours scrolling on social media, how does it make you feel? Typically not so good,
No.
right? And
Yeah.
so imagine being a content creator where you're constantly creating content, posting the content, looking at the comments and likes and seeing how people received the content. And so it's not, you have to really enjoy it and love it in order for you to do it for the long run. Maybe you can do it for like a quick buck, but then you'll burn out.
Yeah.
And that's not
It's not
really
gonna be
what we're here for.
sustainable. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. For you, so I want to ask because I know you with the research that I've done, you bought some property, like you did house hacking, and then you have another one in Kentucky, I believe, for Airbnb. And
Yes.
then you also mentioned from the research that I did, you mentioned that you do UGC and all that. So did that started was that part of your plan, especially like with like properties and stuff? Was that already part of your plan before you started content creation, or because you were like starting to make that money? Because I know you also have a 9 to 5, so there's like a lot of factors that go into it.
Yes, yes, yes.
So how did you start it into investing property and then UGC all of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, no, so I started house hacking before content creation.
Okay.
So the whole real estate, that was my real side hustle. That was where I was
Mm,
planning to make all of my additional sources of income, right?
okay.
Through short-term rentals. And then I started sharing about my journey and talking about how I grew up low income, and now I'm like, what the heck? Where's this all this money come from, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny even when I say that because it's like it's so taboo to talk about money, and you never want to make it seem like you have so much money or you have very little money. And so for me, it's like, no, it's about being open and comfortable with the concept of money,
Yeah.
because it doesn't devalue you or value you, whether how little or how much you have.
Mhm.
And so it worked perfectly with content creation, because people were curious about how
Mhm.
is it that you just build a different
Yeah.
source of income through real estate, not
Mhm.
only building equity, but also earning cash flow.
Cash flow. Yeah.
So it's a win-win. Real estate came before.
Real estate came before. And were you, how did you, because there's those like with real estate specifically, I know there could be that analysis paralysis where, because there's so much information, it could be overwhelming, and there's so many different ways to invest as well. So for you, how was that journey for you? And were there, and then from there, were there like any like limiting beliefs or yeah, any beliefs that kind of like hold you back into starting that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. It first started with my husband wanting to invest in real estate. And I was all on board, but I was also like, I'm much more risk averse
Mm-hmm.
than he is. And
Yeah.
mind you, I think that's because I grew up low income, and so I didn't have a lot of money. And so now that I have it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to do everything to protect it. And so
Mm.
that's my limiting belief, right? Is that we're thinking scarcity,
Yeah.
that resources are limited, when instead, now I've basically been able to transform that mindset into abundance. And so I really avoid saying things like how much is that? Right?
Mm.
Because why does it matter? If I want
Yeah.
it, I can have it, and I can replenish that money that I just spent on it.
Yeah.
And so it really all started with us wanting a house, and we're like, well, the first house we buy, we might as well house hack it. And all of this was probably a year's worth of research that we, every single night after we would put our son to bed, we would listen to the podcast, Bigger Pockets. We'd watch videos on YouTube about real estate and side hustles and things like that. So this was in the making. It's essentially you're filling your brain with something that you want, and it becomes so normal, this thought of, okay,
Mm.
real estate, okay, house hack, okay, cash flow, okay, all of these thoughts, that eventually we're like itching. We literally were like, okay, I just want to buy a house, like I'm so excited about this now. So we felt that we had the minimum information to move forward to buying a property.
Mm.
And so the things that we were looking for a house hack were a separate entrance so that we wouldn't have to interact,
Mhm.
a kitchen or like a bar area, at least with water and stuff downstairs, so that if we wanted to put a kitchen in, we could, and
Mm.
a separate bathroom. And so those were our three requirements. And to this day, I'm so grateful that we did it. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll buy a house hack it,
Yeah.
rent it out long term or whatever. Then they'll buy another one, house hack it. And the
Mhm.
reason why they'll buy another one, you have to live in it for like a year in order
Yeah.
for it to be a primary residence, and then you get there's benefits obviously to that with the loan and stuff. So yeah, that is kind of how it all started. And now, like I said, we're addicted. We need to get back into. I've been really focused on social media, and it's just something that I'm passionate about. But I another goal of mine is actually to buy a property this year, or
Mm.
put a tiny home on our current existing Kentucky
Mm.
property. So everything's itching. We're itching for more. It's just it's exponential growth,
Yeah.
right? The first one was like, oh dang, like that took a long time, and then now it's like boop, 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 and
Yeah, because it's
it'll
like
just keep growing
once
that
you
way.
start that like that process, it's like you got the learning experience, but then then you build that foundation and those systems, and then from there it's like, okay, now what's next? 'Cause I know what I have to do, and then if I have to figure some things out, I'll figure them out, but it's not gonna be as hard as the first one. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Um, let's go with I also want to mention like bigger pockets is like there's like two bigger pockets because like podcasts, because there's like the ones that they bring with like the success of people, and then there's like another one. So yeah, I've been listening to some of them too because my
Good.
mom she wants she my family, because it wasn't just my mom, but my mom like started it on like where we should invest on a house, and the house that we live in right now, like we invested. But and I think another thing I want to mention was like with the um Hispanic culture, or just like anyone really, is like they really have to go with the mindset when they're buying a house on like it's an investment, and it's not gonna be like a home, you know, because that really like can limit you on creating that cash flow or whatnot. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I think what that reminds me of, almost limiting your emotional attachment to a property, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, what do the numbers say? And if the
Hmm.
numbers are in your favor, you keep it or you sell it or you pivot or whatever it is that you
Hmm.
decide to do.
Yeah, and it goes back to like doing your research when buying a house. It's not just
Mhm.
like an emotional thing. But yeah, let's go with the content creation before we move into like the more personal stuff. For you, how have you been able to balance that? Because I know you have a 9 to 5 job, you're a mom, and then you have like real estate, Airbnb. Like how do you balance all of that to go with like the content creation?
Oh my goodness. I gotta tell you, it is something else. Any content creator that has a 9 to 5, it will tell you it's challenging. And then put on top of that real estate and being a mom. Oh my gosh, it's so much. But honestly, so I'll give you some insight into my day so far, for example. So
Hmm.
Saturdays and Sundays, I do my best to focus on my family and any other smaller projects that I'm working on, and not really film or edit. So this morning, I didn't post anything during the weekend. This morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. I asked my husband to call me so that I would really wake up. He's already up. He's already working out by then.
Oh
But
wow.
6 a.m., I tried to read my scriptures. I'm pretty religious. And so
Mm,
that's something that I'm really trying to implement into my life more. I read my scriptures for maybe like 15 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes. And then I spent the rest of my time until about 7 a.m. Uh, reposting my TikToks onto Instagram. And
mm,
so that involves just copying and pasting the caption. That involves creating a cover photo for Instagram, just because it's more curated. You have more
mm,
options on there. And then from like 7 to 8, I spent time with my son. He wanted to have
mm.
breakfast together, so that's what I
Oh,
focused on. And then I got ready, and now I'm talking to you. But after this, I'll have meetings and I'll make sure everything's good with my 9 to 5.
mm,
And whenever I have like downtime, that's what the opportunity that I have to maybe work on content creation, respond to emails with brands, things like that.
yeah.
And then finally around like 8 o'clock, I'll go swim. And so that's my time to like exercise. So
Mm,
my day is very busy, but despite it being busy, I really get to do things that I love. Like, for example, within my work, I get to look at data and help leadership increase representation within their organizations,
mm,
which is very much aligned with what I'm passionate
yeah.
about. And so, although my day is busy, I try to remind myself that I chose this. If I wanted
Mm,
to completely cut out the content creation out of my life, I could. And if
yeah.
I wanted to cut out real estate, I could. But I have slowly put more on my plate,
Mm,
and it has slowly become more digestible. And
mm,
so, real estate, thankfully, is very much on like it's automated. So,
yeah.
my guests get an automation that sends them the check-in instructions, the checkout instructions. They get a canned response of hey, how was your first stay? Like, just to keep an eye
Mm,
on them and make sure that they don't have any real-time feedback. My husband deals with the cleaner. So really, it's a
mm,
lot of kind of also multitasking with my husband and making
yeah.
sure that we're both working together. But yeah, that's kind of it's it really is a balance, right? When
Yeah.
something needs my attention, I reprioritize, and that's the
Mm,
thing that I'm gonna focus on.
yeah. That's yeah. The reprioritizing and the day to day is like really important, because at least for me, when I started, or even like now, I'm still like working on like being as productive as I can, because I'm a procrastinator. So I don't know. It's just really hard for me to like work on things sometimes.
I
So
get it.
so yeah, I would like do blocks of time where like, okay, I need to do this at this time, but then like something will come up, or like I need to go to BJ's because my mom told me to do so. And it's like, okay, now my schedule's fucked up. And then I get like in a, like, oh fuck, like I can't do this. And then I go into a whole spiral, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, it's like really hard. So from the videos because I watch like a lot of personal development videos and like productivity and all of that. So one of the things was like make sure you know your priorities on like what you want to do. And like sometimes you're gonna have
Yes.
to like reorganize them. But yes, that's something I'm working on. And like that's really
Yes.
cool that you're able to do that now. How long did it took you to because with like finding what works for you is like a whole process and involves a lot of experimentation. I think, I don't know for you, like how is that for you?
First, I think I have a gift. That gift is I'm very anti procrastination. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
truthfully, like, no, but like sometimes it's bad. Like, I have a huge sense of urgency. Even when
Mm,
I have like, so even little messages that people will send me on Instagram, I feel like I need to respond like that.
mm,
Right? And so sometimes it can be very overwhelming, but other times it really allows me to reach my goals.
yeah.
So that's one thing that I think really helps me. The second thing is I'm very good at adjusting and like pivoting. So
Mm,
I used to say, okay, at 8 p.m., that's when I start editing my videos. 8 p.m. because that's when my
mm,
son typically goes down
mm. To go to sleep.
for bedtime. Yeah, and so but now I'm like, okay, I can wake up in the morning and then that's when I can just kind of start my day by reading the scriptures and then getting that done so
Mm,
that the videos can just do their own thing throughout the day.
yeah.
And that happens every single day. So I'm really just pivoting. I haven't figured out the perfect system. I have so much that goes on throughout the day. So I have to be very flexible. And I think that flexibility and not being I want to say like stuck into a routine
Mm,
is something that has helped me just to be flexible. That's
yeah.
it.
I think that's really important too, because for me, like I said, I've experimented with a lot of stuff, and in probably like last year, I was working on creating like the perfect morning routine. And there's a lot of things that I wanted to do. So it's like wake up early, which is another struggle that I have. Like waking up
Yes,
early is like
like most
I've
people.
I've been yeah, it's been like 3 years and I still can't, but I'm working on it. And then I would want to do like journaling and then meditation, exercise, and those like took for me, it took a while. Like journaling, I could take like an hour just writing that on. Like that's not realistic to do every single day. So for me, I had to learn like, okay, what do I really want to do? So right now my morning routine is like pretty simple. It's like wake up, go to the bathroom, come back, meditate, and do like a 10 to 15 minute stretch, and like that's it. Like keep it simple, keep it short,
Yeah.
because if not, I'm gonna go crazy. Like, and then again, I'm gonna go into that spiral. Like, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to do, and but yeah. So yeah,
Well,
definitely.
yeah. And what sucks about this, you're talking about a spiral, is we feel really bad about ourselves when we want to do something and then we don't. And
Yeah.
so we got to limit it. Like, I like how you mentioned what your goals were in the morning. For me, it's just to read my scriptures and get a workout in. That's it.
Mm,
That's all I want.
yeah.
And everything else is just extra. And
Yeah.
so, right. And mind you, of course, I'm playing with my son throughout in the morning. And so there's other things that go into that. But if I could just check the box on
Yeah.
those things, I'm happy. And
Mhm.
so really being realistic with your goals.
Yeah. I have a digital journal that I created for myself. And on the weekly things, I have like a side box where it says like, if I accomplish this today, then today's a victory or something like that.
Oh,
But
I
so
love
it
that.
like it makes me like, okay, I did this. If I did this, then it's a win today. So yeah, that could kind of like helps me not going to that spiral, because I really do tend to to go there a lot. Um
Yeah.
let's go with the personal development section, because becoming aware of like the things, because you mentioned a lot of like low income, being low income. So I imagine there's like a lot of limiting beliefs that go with that, in like personal and then like money wise too. So for you, how or when did you become aware of those beliefs, and how have you been working on it, or have you like overcome some of them?
The first time I realized that I had a scarcity mindset was I was in college and I wanted to buy a rice container. and right, just a little container to hold my
Yeah.
rice and put it on the kitchen counter. I went to Target or whatever it was, and I was looking at all these containers. I was super excited, right? There's something about containers that make people happy. That was me. And I was super excited. I was looking at the price, looking at the how much rice it holds, and right, really analyzing what
Yeah.
do I want? Right? Oh, is it aesthetic? Like blah blah blah. Okay, if it breaks, can I repurchase it? And blah blah blah. And
Mm.
so while I was sitting there kind of looking at all these rice containers or these just different types of containers, I started to kind of feel anxious. I was
Mm.
like I was looking at the price tags. I just progressively, as my mind kept thinking about, okay, what's going to be the best option, I
Mm.
progressively got more anxious. And I it got to the point where I almost froze. I was like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
I don't know what to, I don't like, I just exactly how I'm talking right now. That's what my brain was like.
Yeah.
And so I just grabbed one and went to the cash register, checked out, and went to my car. And
Wow.
it was very scary to feel these things because it was the first time that I had ever felt them to this degree. I went to the car and immediately called my husband. And I was like, I don't know why I feel this way. I feel like I couldn't make a right decision. No matter what decision I was going to get, I was going to spend my money. It was a waste. I don't actually need this rice
Mm.
container. I can live without it. And
Yeah.
so throughout this process, I was just thinking, why is it that I just got so anxious buying a $12 container, right? And so it's funny to even think about, but that's because I'm no longer anxious, but it's real. And I
Mhm.
still experience it sometimes, not to that degree, thankfully. But I realized, oh my gosh, like I feel like money is not mine. I feel like money is going to be taken away from me. I feel like I just had all these racing thoughts. And so that was the first time that I really realized, oh my gosh, I have a problem and I can't live like this. I
Mhm.
can't go into the store buying something that's actually a necessity, like maybe not a necessity, but like it's not something that I'm like wasting my money on.
Mhm.
And even then, we can think as anything as like wasteful, but if it brings you pure like joy or in any other way like benefits your life, it's never going to be wasteful. And
Mhm.
so ever since then, I have made it a thing where I go to the store and I tell myself, buy whatever you like.
Mhm.
And you could think, oh, maybe Genesis goes and she just like buys a ton of things. But what really has happened throughout all of this is that I have become more mindful and intentional with how
Mhm.
I spend my money. That being, I'm I've gotten really into minimalism, right? And a big reason why is because sometimes we can't keep up with our house. And then we're like, why can't we keep up with our house?
Yeah.
Right? And you start to feel bad, like, am I lazy? But no, the truth is that you have too much inventory. You have too
Mhm.
much crap that doesn't even benefit your life, right?
Yeah.
And so now, because of that, I look at my house and I'm like, okay, what doesn't spark joy truly,
Yeah.
right?
It's like the Marie
And
Kondo.
yes. And so I've as I've been decluttering, I've realized, oh, I really don't like that. So now when I go into the store, I think, is this something that I want to take care of? Is this something that I want to find space for in my home? Is this something that I
Mhm.
want to wash on a weekly basis? Is this something I want to fold, right? All
Yeah.
of that. And so because when we purchase things, it's not only money that's being taken away from us. It's also time, effort, energy, all of that. And so now with that thought in mind, I don't even focus on how much money am I spending on it. It's like how much all of that do I want to spend on it.
Mm.
And that is significantly more powerful to me than money because money comes and goes,
Yeah.
and that's how I think about it now. So I truly reject when I think my husband, he asked me literally last night, he was budgeting, and he's a little bit more mindful or like he doesn't struggle with anxiety with money, right? To the degree that I did. And so for me, I'm very mindful of how it's talked about in my surroundings. And he said, you spent like $115 on at North Face and all you bought was a jacket. And I was like, why are you asking that question? Right? Like I ask why because what is it in your mind that triggered you to say That's it? That's all you got? And so I made it into a joke. I was like, no, I got socks, I got a shirt, I got like shoes, I bought a house with it. Like I just kind of like what, just to make it lighthearted. But he understands that I don't tolerate things like that because there's more. Words are so powerful, and we get to choose what we digest, and I choose not to digest that.
Yeah, that's that's really powerful because, like you said, like words are powerful, all of that, and then being able to also like create that boundary as well. Like, what conversations do I want to have about money? And because again, like that, you could have taken it the wrong way. It's like, oh, like should I have actually not bought that jacket, or like you start like what's that word? You start doubting yourself or feeling guilty
Yes.
that you bought it. So it's really important to.
Yes. No, and let me tell you something. I still struggle with anxiety because when I saw that jacket in the store, I was like, wow, that's really cute. And then I
Mm.
went to look at the price, as we all do, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, right? Like that's because it wasn't even like a really like big like warm jacket. It was just like like a Sherpa type jacket, like just like
Mm.
super light. And I went through this process in my mind where I was like, do I really want it? Should I really spend
Mm.
$100? And then I was like, what else could I do with $100? Like
Mm.
you just in your head,
Comparing.
right?
Yeah.
And so I've already gone through that process. I don't need someone else to
Mm.
remind me of that
Yeah.
process. And so setting that boundary, even with your spouse, with whoever you interact with, is super important.
Yeah. That's so true. For you, when because you mentioned you had like the scarcity mindset, what are some other things that you did to like go into the abundance mindset? Because that's really important, and like I feel like there's something that needs to be talked about more, because especially as like Hispanic culture, or any culture really, um people really struggle with like having money conversations, and those limiting beliefs are like, oh, money is the root of all evil, like rich people are evil, like if I have money, like just like, all of that. What were some other things that you changed, and other techniques as well that you used to help you overcome that?
So actually talking to my family, I noticed that whenever I would talk about money, they never wanted to share how they were
Mm,
doing financially. I would share
yeah.
openly, but they never really wanted to share.
Mm,
And so I would ask questions like, why? Like, what makes you not want to? And sure, these could be like pretty hard, more hard conversations to have, but I'm not afraid. Like I really believe that transparency is like the key to almost anything. And I started off by me being transparent with money, right? And the hard thing is too, though, you have to be mindful because I know of people that will share how much money they are making, and they'll share their financial success, and what that like results in people asking you for money,
mm,
right? And so for me, that's not something that I really ever give out to my family members. I don't
mm,
I'm like I I just think that I can support them in other ways. And it's so hard for me to do that because I've seen it backfire,
mm,
right? Like I gave someone like $500 to invest in something. They didn't even use it correctly. And I'm like, and they said that they were going to pay me back. I didn't expect them to, me knowing, but
yeah.
like they're not going to be able to pay me back. Right. And so it's just kind of a slap in the face. So instead, let me help you like in other ways.
Yeah.
Right. And so the first one is talking about it more just in transparency. Um, and that has truly helped me feel more comfortable with my finances. And and then on top of that, for like abundance, right? I think oftentimes when you don't have money, I'm just kind of thinking like every single day of the week, you don't have money, you don't have money, you don't have money, right? Monday and Saturday, Sunday through Saturday. Well, but what if on Saturday for dinner, you went out and you just bought what you wanted? Let's say you
Mm,
don't, and this is someone on a lower income, right? And obviously, when you have low income, you can't necessarily go all out and get crazy, right?
yeah.
But at least kind of in your mind being like, okay, I can go to, even if it were like McDonald's or whatever, and get like whatever my heart desires, right? And kind of practicing that mind of, you know what, today I'm going out and I'm going to enjoy myself.
And it goes back
And
to being intentional.
yes, yes. So I think kind of practicing that I don't have to limit myself because money flows to me, and practice saying those things. Practice not saying how much is that or blah 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 and whatever it is, anything that makes you sound like you're limiting money. Pretend you're rich, basically. Yeah. In your mind, pretend you're rich. And I think you'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah, there's two things that I want to mention: the transparency, like being transparent, and like being transparent or just being open to talk to have those conversations with your family or anyone really, like your friends or whatever. It's like you're also breaking a generational belief, you could say, where they used to not want to talk about money because, you know, like you said, either they will think that you want to make you will want to borrow money and then never pay back, or even the I'm not doing well, so I'm not feeling vulnerable. I don't want to be vulnerable enough to like share my stories because I don't want you to see me a certain way. So yeah, having those conversations is like really important because you are able to have that open space. And if they're not feeling comfortable, like it's okay. Like I respect that, but I'm gonna start those conversations because again, it's important to have. So that's pretty cool. And then the second point was the like also setting your boundaries because again, people if they know you're earning a lot of money, it's like okay, can I borrow this amount of money? Or and knowing that you might not be able to they might not be able to pay you back. So that's really important to have as well. And there was like another one that I had, but there was like this I believe his name was Bob Proctor. I don't know if you heard of him, but I was listening to a podcast with him from Lewis House. I don't know if you know him, but he has his podcast, The School of Greatness, and he had an interview with Bob Proctor. I think that's his name, and one of the key things that I said was, or a phrase that he said was the the key to success is the repetition of an idea. So it's like that's really important because like how you said, like you need those affirmations that you tell yourself, or like those things like I'm not gonna say those phrases. That's really important because, and even you said that in the beginning with the real estate, like you went you dived in and it's like okay, give me all this information about real estate, and then you started believing, and then you start getting excited. So that's again like really 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 awesome.
It is iteration. Literally, I wish that I could just shake every single person in this world and just say iteration, because we expect the first time that we do something to be monumental, right? The first time that we do something, dude, it's going to be crap. Do you like, it's funny because I look at my content sometimes and I'm like, dang, that video really just like was not good, right? But that's the thing, like it's the sum of it all. That is really what, and then you just get progressively better, and it's just iterating. I iterate when I go work out, right? Every single time I'm going to get better, right? Yeah. But if I didn't start the first time with the crap workout, then I would not be here like feeling significantly more confident with the knowledge that I have about working out, right? So iteration, baby.
And it goes back to like the compound effect, because it's like taking those little steps at 1% to get better, but then at some point there's like an exponential like growth where like you're like, where the fuck did this come from? It's like, oh yeah, because I've been doing the work. And in the book, because there's a book called The Compound Effect, and there's another one that I don't remember the name, but it's like there's not one point where there's like that tipping point. It's like there's those small steps accumulated, and that's why I was able to create that accelerated growth. So yeah, just being consistent is like part of all of that, and what you said, iteration. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So we were talking about scarcity going into abundance. When you were going through, actually, how did you what were some resources that you were using, or where you were finding more information about this? Or is it like something that just like, where you came up by yourself? Like what were the resources, and then did you have those things already?
Yeah, I think that for me, what has really helped has actually been my husband, because during my first year in corporate America, I was very focused on my job. I was very focused on preparing for my son because I was pregnant, right? And during that year, I told him, you're the one doing the research right now. You go find the research and I'll help you like implement it. And so he was the one really reading all the books. I'm the worst person to read books. I don't know. I just can't sit. I need to read books, but it's really hard for me to just sit still. Podcasts and stuff are significantly easier, but he's really good at reading. So I was like, okay, you go read these books. And then he would share his knowledge with me. But then the podcast we would listen to together. And so resource wise, he's the one that's really read the books, but there are resources that everyone praises. For example, Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yeah.
That I think was the one that was made the most impact on me, because it really gives you the comparison between the two people and how they use their money. And I think that was a really good one. Bigger Pockets really helped. Those were the two that I would say allowed me to actually make the push. You don't need to listen to every single podcast on the planet about financial literacy. You don't need to read every single book. I am all about finding the minimum information you need to move forward. Because again, you reach analysis paralysis. You're like, oh wait, I need to know this. I need to know this. Dude, at one point, sometimes it's worth it to lose money to learn from it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I operate. And it's worked out well for me so far.
That's really awesome to have like that mindset, because for me it's the opposite. Even like with a podcast, it's also like putting yourself out there, like out of that comfort zone. Because for me, I mentioned this in other episodes where it took me, I had the idea like probably a year and a half ago, and then I actually started wanting to implement or execute on it last year around March, around this time. And I will practice by myself, like doing like solo episodes, but that just wasn't my thing. Because one thing that I struggle with is like having like putting my thoughts into a good concrete, like right now, like I struggle with, like putting my words together or my thoughts together. And yeah, so I kind of like stopped doing it because like, oh yeah, it's not for me type of thing. And I will also not send any emails, so of course I'm not gonna see any progress. And then it was until the beginning of this year where, like, because I also through that time I was like working on myself too, like what are my limiting beliefs, why do I believe I can't do this, all of that. And then it was until this year in January where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then the third week of January, I was like, okay, who do I want to interview, like what are the type of guests I want, like having that clarity. And then from there, just sending those emails, like finding their contact info and then sending those emails. And I probably, those 2 weeks, I sent like 20 emails, and I was able to get about 8 responses back with a yes. So that was pretty, for me, it was like, fuck, I just had to do this and that's it. Like, that's crazy. But it goes back to like the mindset, like you're the, like, I hear this all the time, like you're the one who like puts you, like holds you back. So for me, it was that like, I went into that analysis paralysis, but at the same time, I was like working on myself because there's a lot I had to work on, and I'm still working on. But then like putting that push of like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then just going for it and making those mistakes. Because even now, I make those mistakes. Like a previous episodes, there's like times where I will completely forget my thought, and it's like, oh fuck. And then I would, after the episode, I was like, I would go to that down spiral. Like, I don't want to watch the video because I don't want to see me fuck up. And it's like, but making those mistakes is better than not starting out, because now I'm able to talk to you. I've been able to talk to other people, and it's like, it's just so cool to just get started and seeing those opportunities come by.
Yes, and you're doing great, like truly. I mean, even for me, I just posted a video where I'm like, frig, I don't like how I started that, like, and but I post it anyway, because you know what? There are videos that I've posted that I actually don't like, and then
Mm.
people love.
Love.
And so that's the thing, right?
The
Like you don't
ironic.
know, yeah, like how people are going to be receptive to something.
Hmm.
And maybe it's not something that would talk to you, but maybe it would talk to someone else.
Someone
And
else.
sometimes that's worth it. Like what's so funny too is, so I found on social media that there are some platforms that are more ruthless than others. So TikTok is like super nice. Like if you get hate comments on there, you might deserve it actually. Not actually, but like people are really nice. And then on Instagram, people are a little more ruthless. Like, okay, they'll
Mm.
tell it to you how it is. YouTube, damn, they will like, it is awful. They are so savage. But when I but quite literally, when I get hate comments on YouTube, I'm like, I'm doing something right. Like legit, I
Mm.
think I am doing something. I actually, I'm like, nice, because I know that that video is being circulated at least enough where it's not only showing people that they might like it might also show it to people that aren't gonna like it. And
Yeah.
we love that. We love that.
Oh my god, that's an awesome like my side. I actually never I don't think I've heard it how you explain it right now. So that's pretty cool. So like for those who like are trying to figure out how to go about like hate comments, that's a nice tip right there.
Yeah.
Um for you, going back to like the finance stuff, what would you recommend other people who want to start their financial journey and like the step by step, because there's a lot to do. There's like emergency funds, high yield savings account, investing, Roth IRAs, 401k, is how you say. Yeah, all of that. So for you, what would be like that step by step process that you think people should take if they want to start managing their money better?
I would start with whatever scares you less, right?
Mm,
It's a scary thing to right now, even when you were saying all of the different right tools that you need to learn, it's overwhelming even to
yeah.
me. And sometimes I I feel also overwhelmed because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so many things I need to keep tabs on. And so for me, I started on investing in my 401k. Why? Because it was the easiest. I just plug in some numbers in my employer like database or whatever, and then peace out, right? And so that was something. Okay, I didn't even worry about understanding my 401k. I didn't worry about what was in my 401k and how aggressive it was or whatever. Like I did not worry about any of that. And now, though, I feel a little bit more comfortable logging into Vanguard and taking a peek how it's doing, how it's performing. And only recently, maybe like a year ago, I started investing in index funds,
Mm,
right? Like, but 2 years before that, or 3 years or whatever, I bought real estate. And so you adjust and think, okay, what's less scary for me right now?
mm,
And you go for that one. And then don't tell yourself, oh, I like I need to do this. Like, sure, yeah, you do, but you can also wait a few months or a few weeks or a year,
mhm,
right? So I would definitely I don't want to give you a step by step because it's gonna right it's not going to be that way for many people. I could say,
mhm.
oh, because my steps were invest in my 401k, no, save, invest in my 401k, buy rental property, invest in index funds, right? And so it just then find another side hustle, right? It just kind of keeps
Mm,
going. And so my step by step isn't going to be your step by step.
yeah.
So just start with whatever is less scary to you.
That I actually never haven't heard it like how you word it, because yeah, sometimes like we want that step by step, but then because sometimes we have that step by step, like for some people it's like okay, but I don't. That's like if we start with the emergency fund, it's like okay, but I don't have a good job where I have enough money to start putting that money in there and I have other bills. So yeah, I think for me like one of the steps that people should take is like noticing what's your limiting beliefs about money,
Mm.
because of that you realize okay, I'm scared to invest or to do research about investing because of this and that. So having those conversations in the beginning is like really important, and if you can't have them by yourself, like have them with other people or listen to podcasts, but like start becoming aware of like the root cause of like why don't you want to do
Yes,
this type of thing.
completely.
um
Completely.
so we talk about money, like some money believe. Um, in your posts and social media, you talk about a lot about being low income, and like your experiences and how that has influenced you. Why do you think it's important to, or why for you, what's the reason for you to be transparent and to be transparent about that? Like I was low income, but now I was able to like grow
Yeah.
financially.
One word, shame. We feel shame, right? I felt shame when I
Mm-hmm.
was rolling up into my middle school and high school with like the most beat up car, right? Like I felt shame. What could other people think of me? Blah, blah, blah. I felt shame when I took myself to a mental hospital because I didn't feel like I was functional, right? When I had postpartum depression, right? And so, though the words attached to those experiences are shame. And maybe like when I was low income, I didn't want to shout it from the rooftops, right? And maybe because now it's kind of like, what is it? Survival, like, I can't remember the word, but it's like you've survived it, so now you can talk about it. I wish that I was low income, and I wish I could have been more proud of it, because the reason why I was low income was because my mom immigrated to a country that she had absolutely no idea, and she's over here trying to make it and give us a better life, right? And so that is something very much to be proud of, and very much to be proud of your parents, and very much to be proud of what you're going through. And right, like you have to grow up stupid fast because this is just you're the life that you're living. And so that is why I talk about it so openly, because even though it's actually very scary for me, even still to this day, to say I had postpartum depression and I took myself to hospital, like who the frick says that, right? But when I had postpartum depression and people talked about it openly, that helped me be like, you know what? I can I can strengthen the courage inside me to say, hey, I need help, and that's okay. Right? All throughout my life, I can't ever say that I'm self-made or whatever people say, right? No. Throughout my entire life, I have always asked for help. And that is the one thing that I really attribute my success is my ability to ask for help. Whenever I was applying for colleges, I would see my counselor like once a week trying to figure that sucker out, right? I would ask whoever I could find to read my college essays and give me feedback on it. I would ask like anyone that could possibly, that like my teachers to help me with my math homework because I needed to figure out statistics, right? So all of that, I was always asking for help. And to this day, I still ask for help. I don't believe that I know it all, because truthfully, I don't. And I still to this day have no idea what I'm doing, right? But because I'm able to ask for help and there's no shame around me asking for help, that is why I am where I am today.
That's awesome. Because for me, I had the opposite experience, and I feel like because I don't know, that's like one of the the experiences that come to mind for me was college and applying to college and all of that. I'm undocumented, so I have DACA. So for because sometimes I like try to go back to like what were my money experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like my in my family we never really talk about money. And but I will always, well, my mom like try to hide it, like the financial problems that we had. But then I will also hear like financial, like they will have my mom and dad will like will have fights about money. But then so I kind of like internalized that, and then applying to college, I did not want to apply to college. I knew I wasn't gonna get any scholarships, or it was gonna be very competitive. I never asked for help. I was always a shy one, right? Like just don't bother me. I'm just like pretty much like just doing what I have to do, and like that's it. And the only reason I went to college was because my counselor, she told me like there's a scholarship for undocumented people, so for people who have DACA, and you could get a full scholarship if you go. And it's for a CUNY, which is like a city university of New York, something like that. And I ended up getting it, and that's the only reason I went to college. If it wasn't because of that, I don't know what would happen. What would happen afterwards. But yeah, it's like having that. It's like what you said is like really important, like asking for help, because if and or even asking for help and taking those opportunities that come to me, because if I wouldn't have taken that
Yes.
opportunity, then I don't know what I would have been doing right now, even though I haven't
Yes.
much. But yeah, like asking for help is like really, really important. And something that I see now, like that I try to do more often now. But yeah, that's something that's really hard for many people to ask for help, because there's like that shame, or that shame, and then like, what are people gonna say about me? So that's really important. How you said that you were you always because I know in another video you mentioned how you used to like not put yourself down, but like become quiet. So but then like you noticed that you were more like you started using your voice more. When
Mhm.
was that? Like why did that happen for you? Like how were you able to overcome that? Because and was that when you started asking for help, or like how was that process for you?
I know the video that you're referring to, and that's basically like throughout middle school and high school, I was more quiet and kind of a little bit more shy because I wasn't part of like the popular group, or I wasn't part I don't know, I just didn't feel like I fit in. But when I look back, I'm like, you know what? The reason why I didn't fit in is because I was so different. Like my mindset was like 5 years older than who what I really was,
Mm,
right? And these people were over here caring about whatever someone said in the math class or whatever. I was over here thinking about how can I get such good grades that I'm going to be guaranteed for scholarships, right? And it's like
mm,
I'm like 12 years old, you know? And so
wow.
it's like I was over here thinking about how could I be the first female president. I was over here, right? I was literally having these like super almost delusional goals, right? And so I was also confused with my identity as like a Latina, but then I was surrounded by a bunch of white people. So I wasn't sure,
Mm.
okay, what do I need to do to kind of fit in and blah, blah, blah. But then I realized, bro, you still don't have friends. Sorry, I'm so savage to myself. I'm like, dude, you still don't have friends. You might as well like be
Be
yourself
yourself.
and not have friends. You know what I'm saying? But now it's funny. My husband and I talk about this all the time. And we're like, man, like, I don't know, like, because the world tells us we need to have a bunch of friends, and like, a bunch of friends is at least like 25 plus people, right?
Holy crap.
That are in your life, right? Like that's in my head what a lot of friends means. But really, a lot of friends to me is I want to have a solid like 3 people that I love and adore, and
Mm,
that's it. Right? My energy is sacred to me, and I don't want to just give that out to whoever. And so I've just realized that I have opinions. Like I love to be passionate about topics. I love to show up to a room and have conversations with people that actually matter. Like,
mm.
I'm sorry, but some people I just feel like are there brain cells in there? You know, that's so savage. But literally, I'm just like, damn, like, how is it that you don't have opinions? And so I want to be surrounded by people that are opinionated, that are driven. And so now I'm like, okay, in order for me to weed out the people that I don't want in my life, I have to be myself.
Mm,
And if my energy scares you, then thank you, goodbye.
goodbye. Yep. Yep. And it goes back to, because and that's like one thing that many of us struggle is like being ourselves, and then also being, and it goes like everything. I think it goes back to intentionality, like what, and being clear of what you want. Because if you don't have, like you said, like I know what I want like these two friends that where we could have like these deep conversations and talk about
Yes.
where we have opinions, like you already have it clear. So if someone comes by and it's like wants to talk about the weather, then it's like, okay, this is not, you're not gonna be it for me. There's this book I'm reading, it's called, I have it right, it's like Quiet, the Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, something like that. And that book, I'm just in the second to third chapter. And that book is like super, super eye-opening, because in the first chapter, she talks about how we, before the 19th century, the world was about character, like how we are as a person. But after the 19th century, so like, no, after the 1900s, it became a culture of personality. So that
Huh.
culture of personality became a focus of how are people looking at me, how are people perceiving me.
Huh.
So it became a pretty much like that fake it till you make it type of thing, but not being authentic, not being just again trying to make others like you.
Yeah.
Well before it wasn't like that. It was like, okay, am I a hard worker? Like having there were characteristics where you could work on and improve on yourself. But with this culture of personality, like the descriptions that they give, it's like being charismatic or being what was it, like attraction or something that it's like, or being attractive or being beautiful. Like those are things that you already have. Like those are like that's a you thing. Well, where some of us like may not be charismatic at all, and maybe you could work on it, but it's gonna take time. So like that book is like super eye opening, and it goes back to like we have to be intentional with ourselves. There's like another I don't know. There's like so much in that book that
Yeah.
I probably like do some TikToks on that because the much that like just those two chapters is like holy crap. Like I really need to work on myself and be authentic and know who I am so that when I go and like go out and like I could be myself and I shouldn't give a crap of what other people say about me or how they look at me. So I don't know. I'll share the book on the links below so you guys could read it. But yeah.
I love what you're saying. And let me tell you something. You have to also be receptive to feedback. And someone, at least in your life, needs to know you and see how you interact with other people. For example, my husband and I, we made some new friends, and I was talking to him and talking to her, and we were just all having a good time. And then once my husband was like, "You act different with her."
Mm.
And it was like a knife. I just was like, that's actually one of the that I take to heart. Like I don't
Mm.
take a lot of things to heart, but if
Yeah.
someone tells me that I'm not being genuine and authentic to myself, then I'm like, that hurts. I'll be in bed for a few days. But no, he said that, and I was like, I immediately, as we all do, I got defensive. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I'm being
Mm.
myself, like blah blah blah. He was like, no, I don't know what it is, but I just I feel like you're different. I feel like you're almost trying to mimic her. And I
Mm.
was just like, I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. And why is it that I feel, because I didn't do this to a lot with a lot, like this, like this is the one time he's ever told me in our 7 years of
Mm.
marriage that I've done that with someone else. Why is it that with this one person, I feel the need to mimic her behavior and not do what is
Be
authentic to
yourself.
me?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And so it's a wrap. That's a friendship that is non-existent, right? Because
Mm.
why is it that I felt that way? And that was obviously something that I need to strengthen in my heart and figure out, no, like I need to be who really I am. And so I was receptive to his feedback, is what I'm saying,
Mm.
right? Like finding people in your life that could actually be straight with you and tell you, hey, you're not being who you really are.
Yeah.
And taking that feedback and be like, you know what, you're right. And that's not a friendship I'm willing to pursue because I felt that way, and I didn't really feel like their positive energy toward me. And so that's when you just gotta cut people off and be like,
Mm.
I'm done with it, and learn from it.
But were you able to decipher like what was
Mm.
the root cause of it?
I think that I felt even right now I'm like thinking like I don't know. I felt that I almost needed to prove my value,
Mm.
prove that I was fun, prove all these things.
Mm.
But when you have to prove anything to, okay, cool. But yeah, I think I was just trying to prove myself to someone. And whenever I think if anyone feels like they need to prove themselves to someone,
Mm-hmm.
then that's not either
Oh, you're cutting off
you
again.
adjust your mindset around that person or you move on. Oh, dang it. Yeah, but long story short, I didn't really know why I was trying to prove my worth. And
Mm.
it's definitely a relationship I'm grateful that I ended because we just didn't jive, and that's okay, right? And
Hey everybody, this is Editing Andrea, and I want to apologize because we had to end this awesome conversation early due to some technical difficulties. But I hope you enjoyed the episode so far, and I want to thank Genesis for being here, for having such an awesome conversation, a conversation about money, where we're able to be transparent and vulnerable with the experiences that we had around money. So I want to thank Genesis for that. Thank you for being here. Always welcome back. And for those who are listening on any podcast platform, don't forget to give us a review or rate us. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, all of that, because that really supports us, supports this podcast. And with that being said, thank you so much for understanding. Thank you so much for your support. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.